Museum, there is actually physical. Not only, first of all, the notion that diaspora belongs in a museum, something that's dead, but at the end, if you go through the diaspora museum, at the end you go through this sort of this birth canal. Literally, go through a birth canal, and you are with the Zionist music playing on either side. And you come through the birth canal, and there you come out onto Tel Aviv University campus. You have been reborn into the Jewish state. So there is definitely a linear and distinct Zionist interpretation to these events, which is different than the diaspora. So the Zionist interpretation is about responsibility, it's about power, it's about sovereignty. That's what it's about. And the Zionist project takes that responsibility. It takes the responsibility of absorbing immigrants throughout the 1930s, as those people who managed to escape from Nazi Germany came here. It takes the responsibility of building an infrastructure for this country, of making an embryonic state, of making some of these same institutions you see around today, you know, Tenuva and Mashpir. These were all the founding institutions of the Zionist enterprise here. And then there was a question of assuming the greatest single responsibility you can under sovereignty of defending yourself. So already in the 1920s, you got the Haganah. By the 1930s, you got the underground groups, the Etzel and the Lehi. And the big question then is, boom, 1948, the Jewish state is set to come a being, May 14, 1995. Is this Jewish state going to be able to defend itself? And it was by no means a trivial question. Ben-Gurion spends the night between May 14th and May 15th. This is the night when the Arab army, 6 Arab armies, are converging on this newly proclaimed Jewish state. He spends it writing in his diary. He was like an avid diarist. His diary is very instructive because outside his window in Tel Aviv, everybody's dancing. They're all parading around. It's wonderful. We're having a state. But Ben-Gurion is worried about whether the state can withstand the Arab onslaught. But more fundamentally, he's really questioning in his diary whether the Jews, after 2,000 years of statelessness, whether they can assume the sovereign reins of power. And he's unconvinced, by the way. He recognizes that this is going to be the greatest single challenge facing the Jewish people. And the fact of the matter is the Jews pretty much end up rebuffing these Arab armies, not everywhere, but pretty much everywhere. They survive. They actually expand the borders of the state. But the greatest challenges to Jewish sovereignty in this country are not from the Arabs, they're actually from the Jews. So in July of 1948, Ben-Gurion faces a primary challenge to the newly proclaimed Israeli sovereignty in the form of the Alpha-Lena affair. You want to tell me what the Alpha-Lena affair is?
You're walking on eggshells here.
Walking on eggshells? What? A lot of revisionist?
You're
a Beitarnist? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Alpha-Lena, an arms ship. Full of Italian arms from that was brought here by Etzel, by Menachem Begin's revisionist underground group. Big question about whether Begin was willing to give these arms over to the newly created IDF. In any case, whether it was a breakdown of communications or not, Ben-Gurion, the head of the state, said, "You're going to give us these arms or I'm going to sink the ship." They didn't give him the arms, and so 3 years after the Holocaust, we have Jews shooting at Jews. And 26 people were killed, including some people that survived the camp, shot by Jews, shot by Yitzhak Rabin, by the way. He was the commander on the beach. And this boat was sunk. This challenge. But the same Ben-Gurion then turned around a year later and disbanded the left-wing Palmach, which he also thought presented a challenge to the central sovereignty of the state. And over the course of the next several decades, as this state began to evolve into the Israel more or less know today, the major challenges to the state, apart from Nasser, apart from Saddam Hussein, apart from Yasser Arafat, this is by no means to diminish these challenges. The big issues in this country are definitely not what the issues are, say, in the United States or anywhere else in the West, which is like race and class. I would even say the big issue here is about religion. The big issues here are debates over power and how it is to be wielded. The big, huge debate in the 1950s of whether Israel should accept the reparations agreement with Germany. Why not? Germany comes along and says, listen, we're sorry for killing a third of your people. We want to make do. We want to pay you reparations. Why shouldn't the Jewish state accept that and get on with it? There's a new German government, Adenauer, a good man. But part of the Jewish people said, no, the Jewish state does not act like other states. We're not going to forget the Holocaust. We are different. We're fundamentally different in the way we assume sovereign power because we're a Jewish state. we'd rather be poor than accept this money. P.S. We accept the money. Now, there's some very bloody demonstrations here in Jerusalem, including the stoning of the Knesset, really bloody. I can spend another hour talking about all the debates over power just between 1948 and 1967. Even during the height of the period leading up to the Six-Day War, a huge debate in the Israeli leadership of whether Israel should go to war immediately after the Egyptians entered Sinai, with generals like Arik Sharon coming to the Prime Minister, Levi Eshkol, saying, you are not the legitimate leader of the State of Israel because you're endangering the Jewish people by not going to war immediately. And who was going to have power in this state? Was it going to be the generals, or was it going to be the democratically elected government of Israel? There's huge tension there all the time. Because, frankly, we don't have a great model about how to run a Jewish state. Some people in my Institute for Shalom Center think that this is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. We Jews have about a half a book of a model in Maimonides of what an ideal Jewish state would look like. And this is very much in contrast to our neighbors, the Muslim Arabs, who have about 1,000 different books from the medieval period that tell them exactly what a Muslim state is supposed to look like. So it's what, unfortunately, Judaism and Christianity, which are so different so often, are very similar in that both of them were founded in their normative periods during periods where Jews and Christians had no power. But Islam, as a country, as a religion, was founded during a period when Muslims controlled most of the civilized world, and so power becomes integral to Islamic theology. So much so that whereas in Judaism there's a problem about having power at all, the big problem in Islam is not having enough power. It's a real problem for them, and they're almost like in inverse from us. And the difference between our issues with power and their issues with power come to fore after the 1967 war, when Israel, for the first time, conquers large areas of Palestinian inhabited land in the West Bank and in Gaza, and the huge division within Israel over the next 35, 40 years is how to dispose of these territories, whether to